Adogo's rise. The village of Umuoma lay nestled in the heart of Igbo land, surrounded by lush green hills and winding rivers. It was known for its rich culture, fertile land, and, most notably, its women. In Umuoma, the beauty of a woman was measured by her size, and plumpness was celebrated as a sign of health and prosperity. The men sought wives who were full and round, believing it to be a sign of good fortune for the family. But there was one maiden who defied these expectations, Adogo, the daughter of Nena and Obina, one of the most respected couples in the village. Unlike the other girls, who grew round and robust as they matured, Adogo remained slender and delicate, a flower that bloomed differently in a field of sunflowers. The story of Adogo's birth was whispered among the elders. When Nene gave birth to her first child, the entire village gathered outside the hut, eager to see the newborn. The midwife emerged, cradling a tiny, fragile baby in her arms. The villagers stared in disbelief. Adogo was unlike any baby they had seen. She was small, her limbs thin, and her face lacked the fullness they expected. "Is she sick?" one of the elders asked. The midwife shook her head and said softly, "The gods have their reasons. She is healthy, but different." The villagers exchanged worried glances, wondering what the future held for the child who did not fit the village's standards of beauty. As Adogo grew older, her differences became even more pronounced. While the other girls her age developed full cheeks and round bellies, Adogo remained slender, with a graceful elegance that set her apart. She was swift and light on her feet, often darting through the fields like a bird in flight. Her mother, Nena, worried for her daughter, fearing that she would face rejection from the community and struggle to find a suitor when the time came. Despite her family's love and support, Adogo could not escape the stares and whispers of the other villagers. Whenever she passed by, she could hear the girls giggling behind her back. Okporokpo, they called her, which meant stick. The boys avoided her, preferring the rounder girls who embodied the village's ideals of beauty. Adogo's loneliness deepened with each passing year. The village girls formed tight-knit groups, spending their days laughing, dancing, and preparing for future suitors. Adogo tried to join them, but they would always exclude her, mocking her thin legs and arms. "You can't dance with us," they teased. "Your legs might break if you try." One evening, after a particularly hurtful encounter, Adogo ran to the edge of the village, where the river flowed gently through the trees. She sat by the water's edge, her reflection staring back at her, thin and fragile. Tears streamed down her face as she hugged her knees to her chest. "Why am I not like them?" she whispered to the river, hoping it might have an answer. As Adogo sat weeping by the river, she heard a soft voice behind her. "Why do you cry, my child?" Adogo turned to see Mama Ifeoma, the village healer, approaching with her walking stick in hand. Mama Ifeoma was old and wise, with eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface of things. Adogo wiped her tears and looked down, embarrassed to be caught crying. "I'm not like the other girls," she said quietly. "They are beautiful, and I am not." Mama Ifeoma sat down beside her, her movements slow but steady. She gazed at the river for a moment before speaking. "Child, beauty is not just in what we see with our eyes. The gods do not make mistakes. You were made with purpose, just as you are." Adogo sniffed and looked up at her. "But how can I be beautiful if everyone says I am too thin? No one will ever want to marry me." Mama Ifeoma smiled gently. "There are many kinds of beauty in this world. One day, you will understand that your beauty is unique, and the world will see it too. But first, you must learn to see it in yourself." Despite Mama Ifeoma's wise words, Adogo found it hard to accept her appearance. The constant teasing and rejection from the other girls weighed heavily on her. As she entered her teenage years, Adogo became increasingly obsessed with changing her body. She believed that if she could gain weight, she would finally be accepted and admired like the other girls. Every morning, she would eat large portions of yam fufu and egusi soup, forcing herself to consume more than her body could handle. She would sit at the family table long after everyone else had finished, determined to fill her plate again and again. Her mother noticed her new eating habits and grew concerned. "Adogo, you are eating too much. You don't need to do this," Nena said gently. But Adogo shook her head. "I need to look like the others," she insisted. After months of overeating with no change in her appearance, Adogo grew frustrated. She turned to the very girls who had teased her for help. One afternoon, as they sat under the shade of the Udola tree, Adogo approached them hesitantly. "I need to gain weight," she said. "What can I do?" The girls exchanged amused glances. "There is something you can try," said Nokigo, one of the most popular girls in the village. "My cousin drank a special herbal mixture, and it worked for her. She gained weight in just a few weeks." Adogo's eyes lit up with hope. "What is it? Where can I get it?" she asked eagerly. Nokigo smiled slyly. "We can make it for you. It's a mixture of bitter herbs. Drink it 3 times a day, and you'll see the difference. But remember, it's not easy to swallow." Desperate to change, Adogo agreed without hesitation. For the next several weeks, Adogo faithfully drank the bitter herbal concoction that the village girls had given her. Each time she swallowed the thick, foul-tasting liquid, her stomach churned in protest, but she ignored the discomfort, convinced that the pain was worth the outcome. The girls had promised her that she would soon see a difference, so she endured the agony in silence. However, instead of gaining weight, Adogo began to feel weak. Her body grew tired, and sharp pains shot through her stomach at random intervals. She kept her suffering to herself, ashamed to admit that the mixture might not be working. One morning, as Adogo sat at the breakfast table with her family, she felt a sudden, stabbing pain in her abdomen. She gasped and clutched her stomach, her vision blurring as the world around her spun. "Adogo," her mother cried, rushing to her side as she collapsed to the floor. Her father, Obina, immediately called for Mama Ifeoma, knowing that the village healer was the only one who could help. Within minutes, Mama Ifeoma arrived, her face grave as she examined the pale and trembling Adogo. "What has this child done to herself?" Mama Ifeoma muttered as she sniffed the remnants of the herbal concoction that Adogo had hidden under her bed. Foolishness. These herbs were not meant for her body. Mama Ifeoma worked quickly, preparing a remedy to counteract the harmful effects of the concoction. She mixed a paste of soothing herbs and applied it to Adogo's forehead, whispering incantations as she walked. Adogo drifted in and out of consciousness, her body drenched in sweat as the fever gripped her tightly. For 3 days and 3 nights, Adogo lay in bed, too weak to move or speak. Her mother stayed by her side, praying for her recovery, while Mama Ifeoma administered her healing remedies. Finally, on the 4th morning, Adogo's fever broke, and she opened her eyes. Mama Ifeoma was sitting by her bedside, her expression stern but relieved. "You have been given a second chance," Mama Ifeoma said firmly. "Never again try to change what the gods have blessed you with. Your beauty lies in your uniqueness. Do you understand?" Adogo nodded weakly, tears filling her eyes. She had learned her lesson, but the path to accepting herself was only just beginning. Adogo's recovery was slow, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She realized how close she had come to losing herself in a desperate attempt to conform to the village's standards. As she lay in bed, too weak to move, she began to reflect on Mama Ifeoma's words. The healer's warning echoed in her mind, "Your beauty lies in your uniqueness." Though she had accepted that the herbal concoction was dangerous, Adogo still struggled with her appearance. She longed to fit in, to be admired like the other girls. But now, the fear of harming herself again outweighed her desire to change. She vowed to focus on healing her body and spirit. Her mother, Nena, was a constant source of comfort, bringing her fresh fruit and light meals to help rebuild her strength. "You don't need to be like anyone else, my daughter," Nena would say, brushing Adogo's hair lovingly. "The gods have a different path for you." As the weeks passed, the village of Umuoma prepared for one of its most important events, the annual New Yam Festival. The festival was a time of great celebration, with feasts, dancing, and rituals to honor the gods and ensure a bountiful harvest. It was also a time when young men and women were encouraged to meet and court each other, as many marriages were arranged during the festival season. Despite her recent ordeal, Adogo's heart fluttered with anticipation. She had never been one to participate in the dances or gatherings, always too self-conscious about her appearance. But this year felt different. Something inside her heart shifted, and though she still felt the weight of her insecurities, a tiny spark of courage began to grow. Her father, Obina, noticed the change. One evening, as the family sat outside their hut watching the sunset, he turned to Adogo with a smile. "My daughter, this year's festival will be special. I see strength in you, and I am proud of the woman you are becoming." Adogo blushed and looked down at her hands, but inside, her heart swelled with a new sense of hope. On the first day of the festival, the village square buzzed with excitement. Vendors set up stalls selling roasted yam, palm wine, and colorful beads. The air was filled with the sound of drums and the laughter of children chasing each other through the crowd. Adogo stood at the edge of the square, feeling both exhilarated and nervous. As she watched the dancers twirl and stomp to the rhythm of the drums, a young man approached her. He was tall and lean, with deep-set eyes and a quiet confidence about him. Adogo had never seen him before, and she wondered if he was from a neighboring village. "Hello," the young man said, his voice smooth and kind. "You must be Adogo." Surprised, Adogo blinked. "Yes, I am. How do you know my name?" He smiled. "Your beauty is known far beyond this village. I am Chima, from Oboji village. I have heard stories of the graceful girl from Umuma, and I wanted to see for myself." Adogo's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Graceful? I think you have mistaken me for someone else. I am not like the others here." Chima shook his head gently. "No, I haven't mistaken you. Your beauty is different, but that is what makes it unforgettable." For the first time in her life, Adogo felt truly seen, not for how she looked, but for who she was. Chima's words stirred something deep within her, and she found herself smiling, feeling lighter than she had in years. Over the next few days of the festival, Chima and Adogo spent more time together. They would walk along the riverbank, talking about their lives, their dreams, and the future. Chima was unlike anyone Adogo had ever met. He was not swayed by the village's ideas of beauty and worth. Instead, he valued kindness, intelligence, and the strength of a person's heart. One evening, as they sat by the river watching the sunset, Chima turned to Adogo with a serious expression. "I came to Umoma for a reason, Adogo," he said. "I have been searching for someone like you, someone who is not only beautiful but also wise and strong. Will you be my wife?" Adogo's heart raced. She had always dreamed of finding love, but never imagined that someone like Chima would see her as worthy. For a moment, doubt crept in. Could she truly be the woman he believed her to be? But then she remembered Mama Ifeoma's words, and the promise she had made to herself. She was more than her appearance. She was strong, and she deserved happiness. With a deep breath, Adogo smiled and nodded. "Yes, Chima. I will be your wife." News of Chima's proposal spread through the village like wildfire. The women gossiped, their voices filled with surprise and disbelief. "Adogo. The thin one," they whispered. How could he choose her when there are so many other beautiful girls in the village? Even the men were puzzled. Chima must be blind, they muttered. There are plenty of round, healthy women he could have chosen. But Chima was undeterred. He knew that he had found something special in Adogo, something that went beyond the surface. He stood by her side proudly, ignoring the village's criticism and judgment. In the weeks leading up to their wedding, Adogo felt a transformation within herself. She no longer cared about the whispers or the stares of the villagers. She had found someone who loved her for who she was, and that was all that mattered. Her confidence grew with each passing day, and soon, she began to see herself in a new light. She was still slender, still different from the other women in the village, but she no longer saw that as a weakness. Instead, she embraced her uniqueness, knowing that it was part of what made her beautiful. The day of Adogo and Chima's wedding arrived, and the village gathered to celebrate. Though some of the villagers still gossiped behind their hands, many had come to respect Adogo for her resilience and strength. The wedding ceremony was simple but beautiful, with the river flowing gently in the background and the sound of drums filling the air. As Adogo stood before Chima, dressed in her wedding attire, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had finally learned to love herself, and in doing so, had found someone who loved her just as she was. In the years that followed, Adogo and Chima built a happy life together. They had children, and Adogo taught them the importance of embracing their uniqueness and valuing themselves for who they were, not how they looked. Though the village of Umwoma still held on to its traditional ideas of beauty, Adogo's story became a legend, a tale passed down from generation to generation. The elders would gather the children around the fire at night and tell them the story of the girl who was different but beautiful in her own way. And as the years went by, more and more people began to see that beauty could not be confined to one shape or size. It was in the heart, in the spirit, and in the way one carried themselves with pride and grace. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, comment, share it with your family and friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.